Good afternoon and welcome, dear ones, to this place made sacred by a common bond of love. We gather here today in this month following the summer solstice to mourn the death and to celebrate the life of Susan Elliott-Bryan. As the hours of daylight once again shorten ever so slowly as the heat of the summer is upon us fully, we are reminded of the seasons of nature, the cycles of life, and the interconnectedness of life with death. Before her death 5.5 weeks ago, Susan graced this planet for over 77 years. Susan was a loving and supportive mother, sister, friend, community member, and so much more. We come together to say farewell to a generous and adventurous spirit. As we listen and reflect upon Susan's life today, may we let it be with gratitude more than sorrow that brings us here. Gratitude that Susan's years were full of moments of great joy, of goodness and laughter, wrapped in an immense and abiding love. American poet of blessed memory, Mary Oliver, once wrote, "To live in this world, you must be able to do 3 things. To love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go." We are here to bear witness to the ways that Susan lived in this world, loving, holding on, and letting go. And so it is to her, to Susan, and to all the ways she lived and loved that we dedicate this service of memory and hope. In the tradition of Unitarian Universalists, we light a chalice. Today it represents Susan's life. May the warmth of this flame illuminate our hearts, reminding us of the love that Susan shared. May a peace which passes all understanding be with us now and forevermore.
Hi there. I want to thank all of you for being here. Mom left an impact on everyone she knew, and she inspired a lot of people with the way that she lived. And she made this necklace, and the pendant says, "She believed she could, so she did." And that's how she lived. She was fearless, you know. She got on her bike and biked to the other side of the country by herself because that's just what she wanted to do. She got her pilot's license because she wanted to be able to do that. She climbed mountains. She moved to Nicaragua, taught people how to use computers. She went back to grad school in her 40s, and was just never afraid to do the next thing, to change her life, to find new adventures. She had a endlessly charitable spirit, giving back and trying to leave a positive impact on the world was so important to her. She gave to many charities. She worked with the Lynn County Democrats. She fostered more dogs than I could ever count, and gave to a bunch of dog rescue organizations and many other things. And all of those things just were just part of how she lived fully. She loved to live, and she loved people. She loved the world. She loved to travel. She loved to have adventures. This last year, as she battled with lymphoma, it was very difficult. We had just a lot of setbacks and disappointing news. But she never stopped being willing to keep fighting, go to the next treatment with hope and optimism. And in the end, shortly after we got the last piece of bad news, she passed at home with myself and her beloved dog Miles by her. And I always thought, and I think many who knew her, that she would outlive us all, you know. And I was looking back at pictures to print some out, bring some here, and put some on the program, and struck by how just a year or two ago, she still looked hale and ready for adventures, and we kept getting optimistic prognoses with the treatment of the lymphoma, and it just kept not working out. But I just sort of never believed that I would be here today, this early in my life, and it's just an important reminder for me and for us all that nothing is guaranteed. It felt unfair that she had to go through all that and have it not work out, but fair doesn't really mean anything. All that means anything is the day the day we have, and the people we have around us to love in that day. And I'll hang on to that lesson. Being her caretaker during that time was a burden. It was hard, but it was it was also a great privilege. One that an experience that I would not give up for anything. I was the only one that got to be her child, which meant that I was the one tasked and gifted with that great responsibility, and I'm grateful for it. She had lots more adventures to go on. She won't get to do some of the things she wanted to do, but I think that's how we should all hope to go. With more things we're still excited to do, with a lust for life still unsated. She kept adding things to the aspirational to-do list. She was already planning her next bike trip for when she got better. We were talking about going and traveling in India for a while, a place she'd always wanted to see. But getting to do all the things on the list is not the point of making the list. The point is to remain excited for the road ahead, so that we can still move joyously forward right up to the point where we can't anymore. And I think she would love for that to be, her primary legacy, that lesson of stay excited to live, keep looking forward, keep planning adventures, and hopefully you plan more than you'll be able to do. You stay excited. I think if she would want her life to inspire people to lead bold lives with an appetite for life that exceeds the amount of days we're given. Part of how I plan to honor my mom and her adventurous spirit is to an ongoing ritual of scattering small amounts of her ashes as I travel. Just after her passing, I was fortunate to be able to take a trip to Norway and Iceland, and I left small scatterings of her ashes in numerous places, and hope to continue to do that for many years as a way to continue to remember and celebrate and honor her. And I brought her ashes here, as well as a supply of small little jars. So if anyone else wants to participate in that ritual, no pressure, just anyone, if you'd like to take a little scattering's worth and take them somewhere when you next travel, or put them in the soil of your houseplant in your window, anything that fits for you. So after reception, I'll be available for anyone who's interested in doing that. My mom lived with me 3 months out of the year in Los Angeles, and sometimes she drove me nuts. I don't know, raise your hand if, in the middle of your life you think you want to roommate with your mom for 3 months out of the year. But when she did, I knew that there would come a time when I was so grateful for all the quality time we had. We saw theater, and we went to museums, and we did lots of hikes, and we took the dog places, and she made friends out there. She went to the UU church, and she did a book club out there. She made friends everywhere, and I understand the depth of my bond with my mom and my love for her and her love for me in a way today that I couldn't have before this, I think. And I love her forever. I'm so glad you could all be here. Thank you.
You can just read that. Alex reminded us that Susan made friends wherever she went. And now is the time when you get to share the stories that you have of Susan, to share the communal wisdom that we bring in this room, to share with one another a little piece of the memories you have. And I will start because yesterday, as we were preparing for today, we went downstairs to the kitchen where people were organizing the vision for tomorrow, which is today, I guess. And Jan Federer was there. And she just wrapped you in a big hug. And she said, I remember the time we flew to the Ozarks. And that's how I realized that Susan had a pilot's license. So I know there are other stories here in this room. And now we take as many minutes as we need to hear the stories that you would like to share. If you'd like to come forward to this mic here, you are welcome to do so at this time.
My name's Jennifer, and Susan's been my friend for quite a few years. And one of my memories fits perfectly with her and her interest in her life. And she and I were in a book club together, and fairly often, if the weather was decent, after the book club, she and I would meet down at a park near her home, not too far from there, and Daniels Park. And she would bring along her dog, Miles, and like Alex said, that she fostered a lot of dogs. And so often she would bring along whatever dog she had and was fostering. And one of the dogs, his name was Olive. And so we decided to go on a walk around Daniels Park. And Susan kept hold of Olive because Olive was rambunctious. And I kept hold of Miles because he's such a sweet dog. And so we were walking along, and we were right next to Oakland Road as we were walking. And we were enjoying the walk, talking to each other, and Olive took it into her head to just leap away. And so Susan was able to keep hold of the leash, but Olive knocked her over. So she was lying on the sidewalk and the grass near the sidewalk. And then Olive came after me and Miles, and so Miles kept on his feet, I did not. And so we were lying on the sidewalk next to Oakland Road, and all I could think of at the time is we were like turtles turned over, you know, and our arms and legs were going on. And a man that was driving down the street saw us, and he was very kind, and he stopped and he said, "Is there anything I can do to help?" And we were similar enough, we both said, no, we have, you know, we're totally in control here. Yeah, and he stayed a while and made sure that we were able to get up and continue our walk. And we did. And Olive continued to be feisty, and Miles, oh my God. I used to worry, thinking that Miles would die first. And I used to worry about how devastating that would be to Susan. And so she didn't have to watch him die. She loved that dog and took care of all kinds of dogs, so that was very much part of her personality. So that's a very vivid memory for me on the sidewalk. Yeah.
Ninja Turtles. Yes. Hi, I'm Marion Patterson, and Susan and I did some things here at church together on committees and the board. Gary, poor thing, that poor woman on the board with me. Okay, so there we are. But we did a lot of stuff together, and she taught at Kirkwood. Many of you know that. She tutored privately, and I had a chance to work with her some on that, so that was pretty exciting. Also, when she bicycled across the country, that's when I learned, Alec, that you can get hold of UU places ahead of time, and there are people who will let you stay at their house. I went, who knew? And this is before you had cell phones and all that kind of jazz. She did it by herself. I thought, wow, that's pretty adventuresome. And the best thing for me is when she would bring her rescue dogs to the labyrinth that is in our yard and teach them how to turn left and to turn right, to sit, to go. I went, that's pretty amazing. So I will take you up on that little vial of ashes and put that in the labyrinth for Susan's memory. So thanks.
Hi, I'm Chris Davis. I've known Susan since we moved to Cedar Rapids in 1988, and mostly through this church, but it's like I was just sitting here thinking about all the things that we ended up doing together. We did go on a trip to Romania, and Susan had a bike with her, and I'm not sure about all the logistics, but she left it there. She got it there, but she didn't get it back. She had been biking around in Europe before we went on the trip to Romania. She and I were later co-treasurers in the church. We were co-newsletter editors. Susan is very determined, and I am too, so we did not always agree. More recently, but we always came around. We stayed friends, and more recently, we asked her to join this covenant group that, that Brian and I and 6 other people started back in the 90s, I think. And we meet every month, and it seems a small thing, but just over time, it's just amazing how many things people go through in their lives. And over the last year or two, even back when there were just mysterious symptoms and frustrations because they couldn't find her diagnosis and this and that and a treatment that wasn't working. But we talked about that every month, and it was important to me that we kept those sessions not too social, but someplace where you could really talk about what's on your heart at the time. So it was a long, wonderful friendship, and I will miss Susan. I think most of you know, but just because Miles came up, I thought I should make sure everybody knows that Miles has a happy forever home now with Al and Mary Hunnicky, and he will never be lonely. He lives in the country, and he's so happy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Robin, and I also know Susan from this church. And my most recent memory of her, she lives pretty close to me, only about 3 or 4 blocks away from my house. And so a few years ago, we started playing board games together. And I can't remember the name of the game that she played with you, and then she introduced to me. It was a card game. It's like, Dominion, yes. Dominion, she was a shark. Yeah, wasn't expecting that. Had a lot of really good times with her, though, with that, and I'll miss that. Also, I think Miles was a foster fail, wasn't he? Yeah, I remember her saying, oh, he's like a dog of a lifetime. I'm gonna keep this one. It worked out well. And I did get to play a game with Alex one time when you came for Christmas this year. So that was a lot of fun.
I met Susan probably about after I retired in 2012. And I live on Grand, she lived on Blake, so I know we had seen each other over the years walking dogs, but just didn't become acquainted until after we were both now working. And anyway, I have a dog, Marvin, now that was from a litter of puppies that she fostered. And we both enjoyed knitting, and I don't know, she was a remarkable person, and I'm glad I got to know her. and I'm going to miss her terribly. And we rode bikes together, and she's just one of these people you'd find out, I never knew she had a pilot's license. I mean, she just one of those, well, you find out something and you say, well, I guess I'm really not surprised because. So anyway, like I say, I will miss her, and Marvin is going to miss Miles too, because we walk together lots. So anyway, yeah.
I'm Lyle Clayman, actually, the father of Susan's neighbor for almost 25 years. I first met Susan when we visited son and daughter-in-law and grandchildren. Well, not all the grandchildren are here yet, but anyway. You all talk about dogs and Susan, but my first memory of her was Callie, her cat, because my late wife and I had cats. And so we were taken by the fact that she had Callie as the cat. So, for all of you dog lovers, I apologize. But anyway, but that was really my first memory because our son and family would invite her over when we'd visit from Michigan, invite over for a meal. So I got to know her. So I've known her for almost 25 years, I guess, off and on. Then we moved to Cedar Rapids, and she and my wife became walking buddies for quite a while. It was about 10 years ago my wife got hurt and really couldn't walk a lot anymore, but that was something that she and my wife Ann did. It was one of those, shall we say, one of those interesting encounters. And like many of you have said, you know, every time you sort of saw her, there was something a little bit different you learned about that. And it wasn't until very recently, actually, that I learned about her cross-country trips, so on the bike. So anyway, and I also remember, by the way, the first time I met Alex, which was, we had just moved, and we had Susan and Alex and our family over for Thanksgiving. You do know, Alex, that was the only time that my kitchen sink really clogged. Was that Thanksgiving? That's a horrible way to remember, but that's what it was. And so, so I've known Alex now for 15 years or something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood. So, anyway, a great person to be with. We share our own very similar political outlooks, etc., as well. And it was fun getting to know her. And when my wife died about a little over 2 years ago, we talked about that a little bit too, and how that relationship had worked out. So again, thank you, Alex, for your words. And I certainly do appreciate son, daughter-in-law, and grandkids keeping me up to date with your mom. We moved here, then they didn't have to do that anymore. I could do it myself.
Hi, I'm Sashi Solomon, and I met Susan through their church 20 years ago and really was taken by her and so admired her. adventuresome spirit and all her stories. And we were friends for a short time and kind of lost touch. And this winter, somebody got a hold of me. She was having some back pain. And my husband's retired spine surgeon, he retired due to dementia. And she asked him questions, and we realized she needed help getting to the University of Iowa. And I said, well, he's free, he'd be happy to join you. So she got to take a spine surgeon to her visits at the University of Iowa Spine Center, and he took her to some other visits. But the last time he took her, they wanted to admit her, and she didn't want to stay. She needed to go home and make arrangements. And I realized like she needed him to take her back the next day, and he did. And and she was admitted for a long time for her treatment. And she asked him to come and visit, but he told her he couldn't find his car after he dropped her off because they needed to be a partnership. And she gave him she gave him a special role during their months of being sick, and it's really an honor for us to be there. And we were able to see her a week before she came home because he was there for, well, my son brought him once, and then he was there for research study, and we stopped in, and she looked so beautiful and had a glow, and we were really hopeful. And we're shocked a week later to hear what happened. So I miss her.
I'm Katya Klayman. I'm the youngest daughter, only daughter of Ian and Gina Klayman, we were neighbors of Miss Susan. Miss Susan knew me her whole life, my whole life. And it was a very, very special relationship that I had with her. Every single year I have a memory of her. I feel very blessed to have had a neighbor like that in my life, who was much more than a neighbor. She was a role model, a grandmother of sorts, and she is the reason I'm farming right now. She gave me, she shared her love of vegetables, and here I am farming vegetables. She taught me how to play board games, how to knit, how to ride a bike well. I can't recall learning how to ride a bike, but I'm sure she had a part in teaching me that. And it's very, very special that she was there for every single holiday. She was family. She was family. And the memory that I have that's strongest is the last time I played board games with her in March, which was the weird space in between before, I guess, the very significant decline in health started happening. And she sat me down and we played half of a board game, and she just wanted to listen to me talk about everything I was doing and all the places I wanted to go. And which, after listening to all of you guys is like almost like a continuation of her, hearing me say all these things I wanted to do, I want to do, and it was a very poignant memory. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Gina Clayman. And we recently moved to Independence in December, and Susan said, I didn't say you were allowed to do that, which was fun. And I don't know, the last year or so, well, certainly from December to March, Lyle had been driving Susan to our house on Sunday nights, and we got to eat together, and that was fun. Okay, maybe that's not that many times, but it was several times, and we enjoyed it. We got to have Alex also. And when Katya was born, Susan did this really sweet knit thing with a hood and a little pointy, had a little point at the top. It was really adorable. I found some of her yarn that she used that. So she was a grandparent to our 3 kids, and was there for them and taught all of them how to knit. And we enjoyed sharing the dogs. We didn't have a very big backyard, and so we wanted to camp but not go anywhere, and so we set up the kids' tent in her backyard because she had grass there, which was really, I think we had an Easter egg hunt in that yard also, because it was just it was wonderful to be neighbors with her. And we shared some walks, shared a lot of gardening time, shared a lot of thoughts and stories. She was crazy about you and concerned many times, and told me about celebrating cooking together over the phone and playing games over the computer during COVID. That was fun also. And I miss her. And I'm thankful for her and her desire for life and planning what the next thing was, what she wants to be doing next, and not being afraid of anything. There are a lot of things that she taught me. Oh, especially asking open-ended questions. I learned a lot whenever she would visit because she's a great question asker, and I learned things about my family members in how she would ask and relate, and she's a wonderful woman.
Well, I'm just thrilled to see Alex here today. I haven't seen him for quite a while. He's really grown up and is quite a man. You know, he's really impressed me with his eulogy and celebration of his mother's life. And I'm so proud of him. And our boys, I had 2 boys, and I think you kind of grew up with them, didn't you, here in the church, you know? Eric or Joel, yeah, and ski trips, and you've been on some ski trips. I went with you, and your father, Dave Funk, who, as many of you know, And Dave was with you and your mom the last week, right? And we saw Dave down at Newbold for lunch one day and heard a lot of nice things. And I knew Susan and Dave from Collins Radio. They were married and they were both engineers and so I got to know Susan quite a bit, and my wife Jan knew her very well too. And Susan was just full of life for everybody. I mean, it was just fun to talk to her and try, believe all that she's doing, things like that, all the stories. And yeah, Jan flew in her airplane and down to the Ozarks, and they finally found an airport at night, and then they slept out in the open grass together. And I guess we did that once too on our way to camp up in northern Minnesota. What's the name of it now? Yeah, Camp Unistar, where something else was going on, where it was so crowded up there, we couldn't get a hotel reservation the night before anywhere near, the town of Cass Lake, and even the bigger city further east was all booked up. What? Bemidji, and no, even another one. Within 100 miles, you couldn't. So we slept on the grass there too. But so my wife was ready for that adventure again. So I'm just pleased to see you, and I'll pass it on to my boys, okay, and our daughter Teresa too.
I had the privilege of being at the hospital with her. The last day she was at the University of Iowa hospitals, and she was coming home for her hospice time. And we didn't quite plan this, but I was there for, it's time to pack her up. Like, get all her things in the bags and find, put her cell phone in the purse. And what struck me was the number of people who had gotten to know her over her time at the hospital who came in to say goodbye. They came in to say thank you and to wish her well. Now, maybe that's common practice, but I was struck by the number of people who genuinely wanted to give her a hug and wish her well. And one of them, she was certain, she was like, I need to get your address, she says, because I need to send you a picture of Miles. And so we got her address and we put that in the purse. And it just struck me how she touched people wherever she went. And what a blessing that was for them and for her. And that's the kind of life I want to live, too. Let us take a moment to just sit with some music as we think of all the other stories we have of Susan in our lives. Pretty Bird by Lori Lewis. I invite you now into a time of meditation with a responsive reading, and your response is, "We remember them." This was created by a 20th century rabbi named Roland Gittelston. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them.
We'll see how this goes. I like to write songs, and so I thought it was important that I try to put something together to honor her in that way. I wonder where your soul went to. I wonder where your soul went to. Standing in the morning sun, I can feel you pass right through. Oh, pass right through. I held your hand and said you could let go. I held your hand and said you could let go. Some things can be felt but can never be known. So take a piece of me with you on your way. Take a piece of me with you on your way. I'll keep a big piece of you here in my heart, where it will stay. Oh, where it will stay. I don't know where your soul is gone, but I know where mine came from. The river runs unbroken from a mother to a son. And the sky, it ain't no bigger than the love you gave to me. The gift that keeps on giving, the gift that sets me free. burning star is hidden by the dawn. A burning star gets hidden by the dawn. Those of us who've seen it know its light goes on and on. Wherever you have gone, we'll all get there soon. Wherever you have gone, we'll all get there soon. Life is just a blinding flash of light. We all pass right through. Oh, pass right through. Pass right through.
As I extinguish the chalice that Alex lit earlier, I hope we can remember that the fire we kindled has been strong and warm, illuminating and powerful. This flame was like the compassion that Susan shared with us, strong and warm, illuminating and powerful. And even though the flame will now be extinguished, Susan's love remains ever present, ever glowing, ever warming in our hearts. We cannot extinguish the love that Susan shared with us. We cannot erase the memory of Susan from our minds, nor the love that we carry forward in Susan's honor. As we go forth from here, hold fast to the love that Susan shared with you, knowing that her love will be reflected in all that you do. In Susan's memory, be more of a blessing to the world. May peace be with Susan and with all whom she loved. Blessed be, and amen.